The invention of blockchain and proof of work spawned a new era of technology. That was blockchain 1.0, and since that time, blockchains can do much more with faster transactions. Holding way more data, smart contracts can do things that Satoshi perhaps would have never dreamed through solutions like Cardano and Solana. What if blockchain could also solve another problem for us? The problem of having a secure ID. Presently, we sign up for a centralized service. We have to send them documents, personal information, and in return, they give us access, and we hope that they store our information securely. But we have seen over and over hacks on centralized systems, and likely each of us has had our identity information floating out there for sale on the dark web. What if there was a better, safer system for IDs? Our guest today is going to share their solution they are working on so that you can fill it out for yourself and see for yourself if this is the next evolution of secure IDs. Welcome back, everyone, to the Crypto Rainn channel. I'm your host, Jay Rainn. And if you haven't subscribed, perhaps this is a channel for you, perhaps not. I'm an investor for 20 years, 4 years specifically in crypto, and I think about crypto as an investment, and my crypto portfolio has gone from thousands to millions in just the past 3 years. So if you want to find out how for yourself, subscribe and hit that all notifications button. This may be the channel you've always been looking for. And in just a second, we're going to bring on our guest. All right, I'm really excited about our guest today and been looking forward to this interview to hear even more about it myself. So let's join our guest, Legg, co-founder of PhotoChromic, who is going to tell us about their decentralized ID system. Murray, are you there?
I am. Thank you so much for taking some time to chat to me today, Rainn.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. When I saw some details on your project, I was like, yes, the next evolution of where crypto can take things in this world. And what's funny is, my parents asked me how that Bitcoin thing is going, and I tried to explain to them, Bitcoin brought about a new way of thinking about things, but that has spawned so many changes in technology that I can't even explain to them how many changes it's bringing about that they don't even realize it's happening. And I was excited to see your project and what you're doing because it makes sense to me that there's a need for this. So for the audience that hasn't had the benefit of reading some of the stuff I've read about your project, could you explain a little bit about PhotoChromic to them?
For sure. And I think you make an interesting base case there in terms of, what the blockchain did in terms of disruption to the way that people have traditionally thought about systems. And for the most part, people typically think about their identity in much the same way. So what we look to do is to enable people to utilize or unlock utility around their identity on the blockchain. So just by nature of the blockchain, everything is open ledger, and a lot of people might not want all of their personal information exposed just on that open ledger. And we looked at it from the approach of the utility that you can create for individuals on the blockchain ecosystem across multiple chains by being able to capture your biometric self-sovereign identity onto an NFT and then be able to use that NFT for a number of different things. So in a nutshell, PhotoChromic is that gateway to be able to give you that identifiable passport to Web3 and then be able to do all sorts of things in terms of how you expose your identity and your visibility to counterparties that you trust. Be able to manage your identity all by yourself and not rely on the likes of any centralized organization to mistreat your information or get some data wrong. Enter into interesting contracts, whether those are DeFi, whether those are legal, and then be able to really support not just your identity, but everything that goes together with that. It's your personality, it's your selection of artwork, it's your asset allocation, and so on. And in a very considered way that protects your data and gives you control over your identity, PhotoChromic is that unlock of real value for each and every person on the Web3.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, how long have you and your team been working on these solutions?
So it's an interesting genesis, and I think with a lot of new projects that are working in the space, timing's quite important. And my partner in the business has been working in identity for the centralized world for a number of years, and my experience in technology and blockchain has been on the go for a number of years. But I think the real opportunity that came along this at the beginning of this year was NFTs, and being able to really see what the layers of NFT peel back to offer an individual. At the moment, I think we're in an interesting hype cycle around understanding what the artwork and individuality of an NFT can afford to an individual. And I mean, I think we see a lot of flexing around someone that might own a punk or an ape. But it goes far beyond that. All of the utility that sits in the layers and the metadata, the transferability, etc. That really can be harnessed into creating something for everyone that is your self-sovereign identity saved to that NFT.
So I just want to kind of boil it down to my understanding of it, and you tell me if this is correct. So essentially, you could take all your identity stuff. You could scan in your passport or your national ID or something, and all that information, put it in, and PhotoChromic basically take that and encrypt it. And then when you're going to like some kind of centralized service, say like, I don't know, Binance or something, at some point, hopefully they'll accept that you can just get them to, you can share that NFT, give them a peek at the information so they can verify it, but they no longer have to store it. They verify through your NFT all the information, and then they meet whatever requirements they have, but they're not then storing that data on some centralized server that can be hacked. And essentially, you unshare it, and basically your ID is once again completely secure. Am I thinking about it right?
You've got it spot on. And if I could add one or two extra dimensions to that. So the one is each person has their own identity, which is very much captured in their face. And we've seen biometrics used with fingerprints, with irises, etc. But when you set up your NFT, what you do is through our enrollment process, your camera will open and it'll check firstly that it's an individual behind the camera. It's not some deep fake. It'll test your authenticity. It'll match your face against your government issued documents. And in some countries, we can even look up a government record to have a third confirmation that it is in fact you. Then where it gets interesting and becomes a little bit of art is the data points around your face. And they talk about it being called your face furniture. Create a very individual, unique data seed that can program some generative art. So you might have heard, and your audience might have heard about this craze of generative art existing in autoglyphs and in fidenzas, where there's actually a computer program that generates the art. But each time it runs, that output is different. And what we are doing is using the data points of your face and your face furniture to be the seed of that generative art. So the output of that will be something unique that's specific to you, and that becomes the image that sort of bases on top of your NFT. So that becomes the visual representation of that NFT identity. And then that unlocks utility. So you can use that to passwordlessly access certain pages that have accepted you. Your example about the KYC is spot on. I mean, even to the point where a KYC would be done by a single service that you trust to do that. And then you can expose that KYC, not even the documents. You can just expose the credentials that your KYC was successful to a Binance or a Coinbase, and they could accept that. So, and how we do that is through a zero knowledge proof, so that you don't even have to, for a moment, be able to share those documents, because then they're in the hands of a centralized service, and then you stand to lose. So ideally, we want all of those documents to stay owned by you. And important to that is being totally decentralized. So making sure that we use IPFS, ensuring that there's correct sharding of all of that information across multiple parts of the web. And then even so far as having the service to test your authenticity being run by node operators that, I mean, we could chat about it a bit later, but would earn the token for running the validation software of your face. So yeah, that's very much the use case. And I mean, goodness only knows how many use cases people can think of when you can exist in the metaverse or just on the web without having to reveal, in some cases, your name. You don't have to reveal your documents, but you can be an identified individual.
My light decided to give out. That's funny. All right. Well,
No worries.
we are experiencing technical difficulties. We'll just continue on. That's fascinating. So now I have some questions. I brought up some questions to my mind as I think about it. So when I'm a little bit thrown off by the light just going out and then it wouldn't restart because it is so dark now. Let me see if I can move around here. No, I'll figure it out in a second. So you don't even have to give it to, say, Binance. You could give it to this other third party that verifies it, and then just say, yep, they've been credentialed. So that solves a lot of solutions, or solves a lot of problems and provides some solutions to them. Now, one of the challenges I've seen with a new breakthrough in technology like what you're working on is the adoption curve. The adoption curve is somewhat difficult because, like, I think about, so Bitcoin had this breakthrough technology that took a while to hit an adoption curve. Then Ethereum had this new idea that they're like, hey, we can do these things called smart contracts. And people didn't wrap their mind around it for a long time. And then, Cardano and Solana and other projects came out, like Cardano said, hey, well, we're going to do it faster and everything. And they're like, oh, yeah, no way. People kind of fixate on the technology of the past and kind of like they buy into this level of technology. But the next step, their mind doesn't open up to. So when I see new technologies like this is brilliant. When I was reading the white paper on it, I thought, this is amazing. But then people kind of just, oh, well, like they almost have a hard time adopting the new technology. Like I was an early investor in a video game called Axie Infinity that's done tremendous now. But back when I, bought and made some investments in it, it took a year and a half, actually 2.5 years before it really caught on, then went boom and huge. And so there's this adoption curve situation with it. And I imagine something like what you're doing now probably hits its adoption curve in maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years. Because we're explaining it, and I cover early stuff on my channel a lot. And I've always had, a knack for identifying groundbreaking things and then talking about them, even if they take a little bit to catch on, because what you're doing is amazing and it's so necessary. And I think about identity solutions all the time. Do you foresee like some difficulties with the adoption curve over maybe the next 2 years till everybody kind of gets it?
Yeah, absolutely. The adoption curve is something that's is something that we have to keep in mind. I think at the same time, what's pretty comforting is this kind of clustering of a lot of technology that's coming out and empowering utility at the moment. So if we have to think about, for example, some of the challenges that are faced by everyday individuals who create a MetaMask account and they want to send, whether it's Ether or USDC, to another person, just looking at that hex string makes someone a little bit uncomfortable. There's not a way of sending a transfer to someone and being able to say, this came from Rainn or this is for Murray. You're really just sending money or crypto assets across the chain, and you're hoping that on the other side that they come out. So in the same way that when the web used to have server IP addresses, and maybe some people remember that, was when you type in an IP address to go and visit a website, and then the DNS, domain name service, came out and said, well, if you type in google.com, it's going to point you to a particular server, and then that will render that particular web page. And the same I think is experienced by people every day in the crypto space. If you want to send a transaction, if you could send it to a username as opposed to a hash hex, address, you take a little bit more comfort. If you could confirm that you were sending it to Rainn and he had a little blue tick or green tick to confirm that he had acknowledged that that was the wallet that belonged to him, and on your end, you would take comfort if your camera opened for a second and said, is this in fact you who's sending a large transaction over to Rainn? You would take comfort from the fact that that's an added degree of security that is given to you through the use of your face, that no one else is going to steal your money out of your wallet. And secondly, that you're taking comfort that it's going to arrive safely on the other side. So that utility, I think, is pretty applicable to people right now who's starting to use their MetaMask and their wallets to transfer. And then secondly, I think, players like what Twitter's up to at the moment with allowing people to use their NFT collection to select an avatar for their account is also quite interesting. That's a great segue for millions of people to find out, what is this NFT thing? What is a profile picture NFT? How do I get my hands on one? Oh, if I can actually have the utility of my identity being part of my NFT, that's quite good. So we're absolutely expecting that. And I think, in our first year, we would appeal really to the bleeding edge adopters. And we want to actually work with them and encourage them to participate in our project. And in our first kind of Gen 1 NFT users, that they would give us feedback. They would use them in different ways. We'd encourage, and I mean, you could see a large portion of our tokenomics is to reward the community and developers out there who want to build interesting things that make use of this protocol. So absolutely, we can't do it by ourselves. This is a protocol for everyone's benefit, and for the people that participate early on and want to be a part of it. I think that's where some real value and excitement can be unlocked.
Yeah, it's really exciting to me what you're doing, because I love the idea that I have to do a face scan before sending large transactions. That way, somebody can't go, say, out of the safe, get my password or whatever, and then go put it in somewhere and then steal all my stuff, right? So they would still have to pass an additional step of a face scan in order to do it. So this is the next evolution of security, right? So one of the things that a lot of people are going to be waiting for, and in fact corporations are waiting for, is a more secure method of sending things, because you do see like big errors, or they send it to the wrong wallet, or somebody hacks it and steals it. And so in order for this to get true mass adoption, and at the enterprise level, they need additional security methods, like, okay, 2 people have to scan in their faces before sending transactions over this size, right? That's something enterprises would want in order to feel comfortable holding billions of dollars in an asset. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to me, as I was reading through your white paper, that this is the direction PhotoChromic is going, that's going to unlock these abilities that make people feel more secure. So not only on the sending, but who you're sending to.
Yeah. And I think also there's something to be said around just prefacing what your identity on the blockchain means. And for so many people, the history and nature of blockchain has meant that everyone is pseudonymous. Everyone is an identity behind a username or behind a wallet address. And what we're not doing is we're not exposing your name, your address, your social security number, etc., to everybody else. We're not doing that. We're creating utility that you can keep that in your own possession, that can be hashed securely and saved, and then you can choose the counterparties that you want to expose that to, for how long, by signing that smart contract you mentioned, and how much information. So to certain counterparties where you have a deep and trusting relationship, you might be comfortable sharing a lot more of your documentation. And to someone that's new that you want to do a small transaction with, you may want to expose a lot less. And that's really the name of photochromic. I mean, photochromic lenses go dark in the sunlight and they go clear in the shade. And varying degrees of light will give you varying degrees of ability to manage your transparency with the people around you. And we think that if we get enough adoption and we get enough people comfortable with using that, we become a credible player in the space to support people's identity utility.
That makes sense. I did have some questions for the audience and myself about your token, because you have a token that's coming out, correct?
We do. So we'll soon be having our IDO, and the token will allow, a couple of things, but really the first use case for it will be to allow people to spend it by purchasing that identity NFT and going through that biometric process. Obviously, on the other side, you've got a node operator who's earning that token for doing that enrollment and the validation and supporting the transaction that happened. Once you have that NFT in your wallet, it's basically hiding in plain sight. And then when you want to tether or bond that identity to another counterparty, a contract, a document, an asset, whatever it is, again, you can spend that token to do so. And then again, the node operator would earn it. We also would love to ensure a very strong road towards decentralization. So the management of our protocol being run through a DAO, and being able to stake tokens to be part of that decision process and governance would also be important. So those are some of the use cases for now that we have, and that would be our ERC20 Ethereum-based token. In time, we're also going to move to Cardano and to Polygon and ultimately Solana, so that people can have utility across multiple chains. And then there's the ERC721, which is your NFT on the Ethereum chain that we'll have to do some amendments to, because anyone can purchase and transfer an NFT, but as soon as your biometrics are bonded to that, you probably wouldn't want to transfer your identity to me. So when we do that bonding, we also alter that 721, so then it remains forever in your wallet. You may then choose that can be your public wallet effectively, and in time, over the years, all of our face furniture will change, and we'll have to renew that. So much like renewing your domain that you've registered each year, you just do an update for your documentation and your face. And again, that would be ways to spend your token and for the node operators and validators to earn them.
That's fascinating. So you do have a token coming out, because most of my channel we're investors, and we like to identify trends where they're going, and we hold for medium to long term, sometimes shorter term, depending on the situation. So it'll be coming out through an IDO on several launch pads. The token use case allows you to get essentially the ER721. Is that basically your NFT for the photo identity? And then other use cases for that, are there any staking or anything like that?
So just to clarify, so our token is our ERC20 token, the PHCR, okay, which we'll label it, and that we'll be able to make available through our IDO. Okay. We've got a launch pad that we're working closely with to launch. For the moment, we want to try and build as much awareness and community around the project to support that IDO properly. So we're not rushing into it. We just want to do that first and get an investor, retail, and community element to that. And then once that token's in circulation, we'll then open up the ERC721s, the NFTs. Okay. We'll then it'll be a few weeks after that we'll make those available. Yeah.
Love it. I like where you're going, and I hope this really takes over the information. I bought a ledger, and I had my information stolen from purchasing the ledger, and they stored your information when you purchased those, and then I got all these fake emails from hackers trying to get you to do stuff. And I'm just tired of the old solutions of the centralized servers, and looking forward to like what you're doing, so we can move away from that.
Thank you. I really appreciate the support.
Yeah, Murray, do we have an idea when your token's launching? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 4 weeks?
I think the best thing for your audience to do is to follow us on Telegram. We've got a lot of announcements on there. So search for PhotoChromic on Telegram. Follow us on Twitter, and then stay tuned. We imagine that it'll be within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, perfect. So that gives us kind of an idea. Yeah, you're at that time frame where you still don't have an exact date pinned down. You haven't probably announced who you're launching through, though it's just not publicly announced yet.
So we can say it's CardStarter.
Oh,
that
nice.
We do. Yeah.
They're an amazing launch pad. They do amazing projects. Cool. Well,
yeah.
Murray, thanks for joining us. And if you don't mind, after this, I'll get the Telegram link and I'll put it on the video below, so anybody that just wants to click on it can make sure they're getting to the right Telegram group.
Brilliant. Rainn, thank you so much for hosting me and for sharing my story of the project with your audience. And I'd love for everyone to be involved in some shape or form over the coming weeks.
Love it. Thank you very much, Murray.
Thank you.
Hey, I do want to thank all of you for joining us. I also want to thank our sponsors, Moodrex, the best systems that I have seen for automated trading and bot trading. You can follow their bots, or algorithms as they call them, with a proven track record, or can even create your own with a simple interface. So in general, if you're ready to level up your crypto game, or if you're ready for some life-changing wealth and wife-changing money, or that Lambo, strap in, because these next few months are going to be very hot. At least that's what I think. I don't have a magic crystal ball, but I'm seeing everything lining up for that. And in this channel, we're creating the most informed audience in crypto, so join us. Thank you so much. Now, normally at this point, I play a rap song that I had developed to specifically reinforce these principles, but I had some requests from my community. There is a link to our own Telegram community, and it's very strong. And they requested my old song that I had done a long time ago.
Success is falling, flowing like rain. The timing's right, we're getting paid. Come on, remakers, let's make this happen.